And Cheryl, where are we now?
Well, I live in Philadelphia now, but I'm from Ohio originally, Columbus, Ohio, as a matter of fact. But I moved here quite a while ago, and partly because of the Ritchie family. I was already living in the area, working at Glassboro State College, which is now Rowan University, when I started going to an acting school and met Cassandra and Gwendolyn, our other original member. But then I moved back to Cleveland and then back to Philly. And I've been in Philadelphia ever since.
All right. And Renee, of course, you're another Philly girl. Go ahead.
Yes, I was born and raised right in West Philadelphia, born and raised, just like Fresh Prince. And went to school, all the way through school. And then I left the nest and went to college in Westchester University, which is really only a good 45-minute ride outside of Philly.
All right. So then this is the first question everybody knows that I ask this every show I do. It's like, on the walk of life as little young ladies coming up, where does music find you? How does it all begin? Because we know the success is later, but how do we hone these voices? Where does this all begin? So I'll let Cassandra take the lead. She'll take lead number one. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Well, for me, music was always a part of my family. My grandfather played the guitar. People in my family liked to sing, and whenever there were gatherings, there would always be music, radio, just always musical inclinations within the family. So there was a natural appreciation. Then, when I got a little bit older, I was allowed to go to the Uptown Theater in Philadelphia and saw all the wonderful, marvelous, fantastic groups that came through. And as a result, I appreciated not only the music, but the live presentation, the showmanship. It was live, all the way live. And I really got to appreciate what people brought to their craft. And then in junior high school, I began singing in girls' chorus and the Glee Club, and then in a neighborhood group. And from the neighborhood group, everything evolved until we got into the Ritchie family. But music was always there.
All right. Cheryl, since you're door number two, Miss Thing. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I got started as a young child. My second mother put me in a choir at our church, St. Paul AME. It was called the Wee Wisdom Choir. And I sang with them as a little kid. And I think it was about 4 when I joined that choir. And then I started doing music at school, in elementary school. And my mother put me in piano lessons. And I started taking voice lessons when I was in high school. And I joined a senior choir as a freshman. They let me come in as a freshman in the senior choir. I sang in a whole lot of ensembles and groups and was in plays and musicals in school. And then I just kind of went about my way doing other things until I joined the Philadelphia School of Performing Arts in Philadelphia. And that's where I met Cassandra and Gwendolyn. And they asked me if I would sing background vocals with them. So we had 1 rehearsal or 2. I can't remember, Cassandra. Was it 1? And Jacques Morali came into town and got us started because he knew Cassandra from a previous engagement.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute, Cassandra. You'll explain that clearly. And Renee, door number 3. Go ahead.
Well, let's see. I started singing around 3 years old, believe it or not, at my mother's, what she called weekend parties. The weekend parties? Mm-hmm. They used to have all the family, people would come over. She would be cooking all kinds of food, and they'd have drinks and what have you. And I'd take a microphone, which was usually a shoehorn or a clothespin, and get up on the step and sing "Our Day Will Come," "I've Got 2 Lovers," all those nice oldies. And then as I moved up in age, music was always just a part of me. It's the lady said I was in the choirs as well, and very musically inclined in my school. And I went to parochial school, but they had a nun that taught Glee Club and what have you. And we had a beautiful choir. And then I was in the orchestra, played the violin through high school, and continued until I decided to go on the road with Sister Sledge, as a matter of fact, because I grew up with them. They're on the block, and went all around the country with them. Didn't sing, but I did do some choreography, did little steps. And then when I came back home, I decided to go into teaching. So I put my music on the back burner until I met these ladies.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that in a moment, how you came along.
Yeah.
My introduction to music was not the same as, I think Cassandra had a lot of rock and roll and R&B stuff in her background. I had Tennessee Ernie Ford and Sinatra and Pat Boone and Doris Day and Marian Anderson. Those were the kinds of things that were playing at my house until I started babysitting for the lady next door, and she had a Sarah Vaughan album. And I love that album. I played it so much, she finally gave it to me because I was wearing it out. But then I got introduced to Gloria Lynn. When I was a kid, I listened to Johnny Mathis. I started listening to Jimi Hendrix and George Benson. So I started becoming influenced by a lot of different artists, but it was an eclectic mix of artists like Aretha and Dionne Warwick and Stevie Wonder, Chicago, Led Zeppelin. I saw you had a Led Zeppelin t-shirt on the other day on one of your programs. As opposed to doing what Cassandra did by performing all that music that was R&B.
So when you say I had Led Zeppelin, the reason why I had rock and roll on me, I'm really a disco baby. But my wife was the one who introduced me to rock music. And I'm classically trained as a pianist. So I can understand what you're talking when you're saying about the backgrounds. And that's important for a lot of people because we get a lot of producer people watching the show. And they always like to know the musical backgrounds of everyone that's stepping into this. Especially when disco started, there was nothing like it before except the Motown sound. So a lot of people were really influenced more by Motown than anything. Or James Brown. Mm-hmm. That funk sound or Motown, that was the sound on the radio or wherever you went, basically. If you went to a show, like you saw about the Uptown Theater, Cassandra.
Yes.
Earl Young said to me he remembers seeing Motown people at the Uptown Theater. A lot of Motown shows in the mid 60s there.
All of the Motown artists came through the Uptown. All of them, the Four Tops, the Temptations, the Supremes, Martha and the Vandellas, Junior Walker and the All-Stars, the Velvelettes, all of them, they came through and they were all good. They used to have the Motown Review,
right?
And it would be an all Motown show. And, they came through individually and they came through collectively, and it was always all good. Trust me on that. And, of course, at the Uptown, you had your James Browns and you had all kinds of comedians, Red Fox and Flip Wilson. So they all came through the Uptown. And as a result, they were big influencers in terms of what I envisioned once I started singing with a group, what I envisioned that a group could be, because what I wanted to do was incorporate all of those different things that those people brought, that energy, with Gladys Knight and the Pips, they brought like a precision to their movement. James Brown brought the excitement. Tina Turner brought the excitement. So as a group, going back down to the Honey and the Bee days, we wanted to incorporate all of that, but we did not want to copy anybody. Always wanted to be original because who we admired, each of them in their own right were original. So we wanted to see what made them good, what made them outstanding. And from that, we wanted to incorporate those characteristics and put our own flavor to it.
So when you say Honey to the Bee,
Honey and the Bees.
Honey and the Bees. Should I say Honey in the Bees.
Yeah.
what years were those, and who was behind that? What was the whole thing with that?
Okay, well, it was a neighborhood group. You know, Gwendolyn and I, we went to junior high school, elementary and junior high school together. And there was some neighborhood girls that had a group called a Superior X. And they asked Gwen and myself to join, and we did. And after a while, we met Nadine Felder, who was Honey. She had an opportunity to audition with Jimmy Bishop, who was a popular radio DJ in Philadelphia. And he gave a lot of the shows at the Uptown along with Georgie Woods. And what happened, he did not want a single female artist. He wanted a group. So since Nadine knew that we sang, she asked if we wanted to all hook up with her, you know, to come together and audition for Jimmy Bishop, since he was looking for a girl group. So that's what we did. We practiced and we went to him and we passed the audition, and he named us Honey and the Bees. So that's how that came together. And as a result, we began to play the Uptown, and we had the opportunity to play the Apollo Theater. We had the opportunity to travel with James Brown. So it was quite an adventure. It was a lot of fun. And it was a great learning experience for us and put us on the path to actually be ready when the Ritchie Family opportunity came along.
So was it Honey? Okay, so I've spoken to other R&B artists, and there was a thing called the Chitlin Circuit, as in the beginning, as we all know. Were you right away taken from? You went from a group that was studio oriented and went right into the Uptown Theater, or did you have to work your way up with Gwendolyn?
No, well, it kind of happened by accident. We were doing kind of the local Chitlin Circuit, you know, and really what we were doing, we were rehearsing, we were honing our skills. Barbara Mason was appearing on a show at the Uptown. It was a 10-day show, and she ended up losing her voice. But because Jimmy Bishop knew that we were ready, we filled in the last 5 days for her, and that's how we got our opportunity to play the Uptown, and the audience liked us. And then we ended up coming back over and over again playing the Uptown, and that's where other opportunities came in as well, you know, including being able to go on the road with James Brown and working with Jerry Butler. You know, we were on the road with him for a while. And it was just one thing after another. Now, initially with Honey and the Bees, we did do a lot of the smaller clubs and venues, but it was a good experience for us. You know, we did Buffalo, New York. We did Boston, Massachusetts, New Haven, Connecticut, you know, so.
Cassandra, Can I interrupt you?
Yes.
So Gwendolyn Wesley, can you tell people who that was and who she met and what was, you know, who she is?
Yeah, that's a beautiful story. First of all, she's my very best friend in the whole wide world.
Aww.
And she kind of taught me harmony because she already sang before I did, like in elementary school. And when we would walk to school together, we would harmonize. And I always credit her for teaching me harmony. She tells me, but you always stayed on your note. So I'm like, okay. So what happened was, after Honey and the Bees had the opportunity to go on the road with James Brown, which included, of course, Gwendolyn, we met Fred Wesley and all of the other JBs, Maceo Parker, Cush, Clyde Stubblefield, Jabbo, all of the guys.
And they're all greats in their own right. Every one of those names you name are like peak name, big names. Every one of them.
They were legends, you know.
Yeah, legends of legends right there. Each one of them.
And when she met Fred, you know, it was a connection that just, you know, took off. And, you know, after a while they married, and they're still married. They had 2 sons and living in South Carolina. So, yeah, that was Gwen's, that was her hookup with Fred. And
all right.
So in love.
That's a wild fact. Cause see, I've always wondered who was the one next to you, you know, at the time in the beginning of this, because how long was she? Okay. So before we get to that part, so you guys go from there. Where does Jocks Morale and you start this Ritchie Family saga, or is there an in-between part before that?
Well, there was a continuation because there was the Honey and the Bee part. And at one point, Honey decided that she did not want to do R&B music anymore. So, there was like a little lull. At one point, she and I had the opportunity to go to New York and do background on a record for Jacques Morali. He was in from Paris, and that was our first time meeting him. And he liked what we did, and he said if he ever started a girl group that he would, let us know, or he'd want us to be a part of it. And we didn't really think that much of it. We didn't know him that well, or what his musical tastes were, his ideas, or just what his influence was or would be. But as it ended up, he called Honey. And Honey said, I'm not singing R&B music anymore, because she decided she wanted to be totally involved in church music only. And she, called me and said, hey, remember the guy we did the background work for? Yeah, I remember. Well, he called and he's interested in having somebody come and perform, and be a group called the Ritchie Family. And it was like, what? So all in all, Gwendolyn and myself, we were still in close proximity. By this time, I was in the drama school. I knew that Cheryl could sing, and we had asked her about singing with us to do some background studio work, because we thought that's all that we would do.
Well, that's the question I wanted to ask before you go further.
Yep.
Before you even were asked, you went to New York to record. Or was it Philly?
It was in New York.
Okay.
Just me and
Gwendolyn,
Honey,
right? Honey.
It was Honey that did the background session that where we met Jacques Morali.
Do you remember the song that you recorded?
No, I don't. But I remember that one of the producers was Patrick Adams. And I believe...
Where is he? Put Patrick Adams on the phone.
I don't think even Patrick quite remembers, because I tried to jog his memory about when we first met, but it was so long ago. I don't think he really remembered us. I mean, we were just two girls that did background on a song that he worked on many years ago. But yeah, I don't remember the artist. I believe it was a French artist, but I can't be sure about that. It's been so long.
Okay. So then he says to you, if I decide to ever make a group, I like to work with you ladies.
Yes.
So the phone call comes when? Or what's the real behind the scenes? What happens there?
About 2 years later, it was when the phone call came. And by that time, we'd had about 2 or 3 rehearsals with Cheryl. And the sound was coming along really nicely. So we went down. They wanted to hear us sing. And actually, Brazil had been recorded by 3 studio girls, okay? And he wanted us to audition, and we auditioned by singing Brazil, and we sounded exactly like the 3 studio girls. So by the time we got into the studio and did Best Disco in Town, there's a portion of it where we're singing Brazil as a part of that medley, and we're singing it. It's not their voices, it's our voices that's doing all of that on the Best Disco in Town record.
Was it the Sigma Sweethearts?
Sweethearts of
Sigma Sound.
Sigma Sound. Sweethearts of Sigma Sound. Thank you, Cheryl.
You're welcome. Wrong?
No, you're right. So then, see, this is where we didn't realize, because nobody ever said on the record, they saw the picture and thought it was all you doing it from day one.
Because the first album, Brazil, wasn't really a group. It was more of a concept album, and they used background girls to do the vocals on it. But when they decided after Brazil was such a big hit, they really needed real people to be the Ritchie Family. That's where we came in, and we did our Arabian Nights with Best Disco and, all those tunes, Baby, I'm on Fire, and some of the other tunes that I'm having difficulty thinking of, but you know what I mean. Istanbul, not Constantinople.
Wow. Because
It had pictures of anyone. It had drawings or painting kind of pictures on it.
right. So immediately when the next album comes out and we see the 3 of you, or it's like, oh wow, these beautiful women, because gorgeous women.
Thank you.
And the way they dressed you up with all those beautiful outfits and all that stuff, there was some work, there was some money spent and some time. Somebody took the time to put it together.
They had money, big time.
Who was behind it?
Jacques Morali and Henri Bellala.
And was their thought, right? They had this idea to create the studio group because they also did The Village People, which is not too far and much later.
Our brother group.
The brother group, right? The brother group.
Brother group.
Yeah, the other group. Brother or other, right.
Our brother group.
Yeah. Okay, so now you guys are rehearsing, getting it right. You go to Philly or New York to do this rehearsal thing, to audition for this. What happens there?
We auditioned in Philly, but our rehearsals thereafter were in New York. We would go up for the entire week, and then we'd come home on the weekends. By that time, they had hired a choreographer for us, and they were preparing us to go out and do live shows. Cheryl, take over.
Go ahead, Cheryl. She's like, take over.
Cheryl, take over. I had to come back and quit my job. Actually, I came back and took a leave of absence from my job because I wasn't sure this thing was going to work out. So,
what were you doing at the time? What type of work?
I was the director of housing at Glassboro State College, which is now Rowan University, and they considered me their dean of students. I liked my job, but I also love singing. I thought, though, that I was going to be singing and coming home every night because we were going to be background vocalists. So when they first brought the idea to us, I told them no, because I wanted to come home. So they said, why don't you just do with us, audition with us, and then when you're finished, if we get the gig, then we'll find somebody else. I said, okay, I can do that. But once I started, it just kind of takes over your life and you just start loving it because you're doing something that doesn't seem like work. So I came home from New York and told my boss that I needed a leave of absence because I had recorded an album over the weekend. And he was like shocked and didn't believe it. And so they gave me the leave of absence and I went out. But within 6 months, I knew that I didn't want to go back to my old job. I loved what I was doing. So I quit so they could hire somebody new. So we did one little story about when we went up there to do the pictures and everything. We didn't have any luggage with us because we didn't plan on staying over. But everything took so long that they had to put us in a hotel. So they take us to the hotel and we have no luggage. These two white guys from France that are trying to book us into a hotel. And the hotel in New York didn't take kindly to that. They thought we were hookers. And then we were bringing our guys there. We had no way to take the makeup off, no way to change any clothes or anything. So that was kind of our introduction.
Oh, really? Because you were all dolled up for the photos.
Oh, my God. Face beat down, hair a certain kind of way. Yeah. And then we go to a hotel with no luggage and two white guys trying to book us in.
Please, we need a room for the night for the girls. No way.
They got us in, but it took a little talking because they were going to say no to us.
So now give us the idea now. You girls never had anything like this before, like this type of level of professionalism, I guess, or anything that, like you said, you worked both of you working regular jobs, even though you had Honey, you were working with Honey at the time, you were moving into it. This is like...
Sandra was still singing. She was still going out and doing things. I stopped because I started working. I had my degrees and I had a job and I was working my job. When I was in college, I thought I was going to be an opera singer. So then I took German and realized I was not going to be an opera singer because I didn't like trying to learn German. So when I met them, I wasn't doing any singing other than in the drama group, the things that we were doing within the drama group that we were in. I wasn't singing any choirs or anything else because I had no outlet in Glassboro, New Jersey. So this was my first time going different places and seeing Cassandra and Gwendolyn with producers, and the way that they behaved struck me as really odd, because I wasn't used to people putting on the face, putting on the act for the people that they were. I just was like, who are these women? You know, 'cause I'd never seen them act like that before. And there they were like, oh, and I'm standing back like, whoa, what's going on here? So
Right.
It took me a longer time to acclimate myself to what was going on in this world than it took them, because they'd already done it before. I had not.
Right. You're stepping in from a regular situation, and now, boom, you're going into like full on commercial status record, instantaneous. You're now going to start traveling the United States and the world pretty much.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about what year this was. So we have a timeline so people know.
It was like 70 when we recorded the Arabian Nights album. I think that might have been 75, and by the time it was out and really took off, and really doing stuff was in 76. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know when we did Arabian Nights whether it was going to be a hit or whether it was just going to be a dud. But it ended up being not only a hit, but an international hit. And we really didn't understand the magnitude of that and what it would mean. But all of a sudden, you know, instead of playing like New York and New Jersey and Connecticut and Massachusetts, we were playing Austria, Paris, Brussels, Australia, South America, the Philippines. It was like, oh my God, you know, how world that we were thrust into. And it was very, very exciting.
Well, also because even though you picked up from that album and you were the voices, you still had all the fame now going from Brazil album.
Right. And I believe that the Arabian Nights was even a bigger charted song than Brazil, but nevertheless, Brazil started everything.
Right, the basically the door opener.
Right, plus the door opener. And not being into disco, I didn't realize how big Brazil was, but it was nominated for a Grammy. And all of a sudden, we were thrust into the world of this new genre, disco. And we were probably one of the first female groups to actually be called or known as a disco group. And, you know, that's how we really got into the world of disco, through Jacques and Henri. It was what was really big and doing well, trending in Europe. And they got this American group to be into it, and we just totally embraced it.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out the timeline. You said it was 2 years prior that you met Jacques. So that must have been 73 then. You must have met him.
Probably that sounds about right. Yeah.
Jesus. Wow.
Yeah. A lifetime ago.
That's exactly right. I was going to say, for most people, that's a lot of people who are watching the show are not even that old.
Well, let me tell you, from what I understand, and doing some research, the Ritchie family was actually the very first female disco group in the United States. There was one in Europe, and I'm not remembering their name right off the top of my head, but I think it was 3 of them. But at any rate, the Ritchie family was, in fact, the first female disco group in the United States.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I was going to say, because the only thing I can think of as far as a female voice, 2 female voices that stand through is Gloria Gaynor and Donna Summer, around 74, 75.
And Vicki Sue Robinson.
And Vicki Sue Robinson, right. May she rest in peace as well. Wow. That's crazy. Because I'm trying to think, was there any real girl groups? There was.
But in Europe.
LaBelle. You mean girl groups? You had the Supremes. You had LaBelle. There were other.
You know that.
Other groups.
We're talking about
disco.
Not for disco. LaBelle would be known as more R&B than disco.
Right. Disco, followed by the Ritchie family, I would guess would be Sister Sledge came after them. You know what I mean? But actually, no. The Ritchie family was the actual disco group female group. And Cheryl and Cassandra, neither one of you can remember the group from Europe that was out. I think they were out before the Ritchie Family.
I don't.
And they were with blonde hair, and
I really wasn't aware of disco.
What do you mean?
until-
Fly, Robin, fly.
yes,
Up
yes. Who were they?
Silver
Yes.
Convention. Silver Convention.
That's right. There you go. That was the group.
Yeah, but that's
Right.
another manufactured group. That's not even the real singers, from what I understand. That was three women put in front with a
Yeah.
studio thing behind them.
Yeah. In Europe, though. It was Europe.
So the European side.
Yep. So I think that's something to be pretty, that's
Take a bow, ladies. Take a bow. And still be here to say it with pride
Absolutely.
and glee. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was fun, and we got to travel in style. I mean, Jacques and Henri did not play when it came to lavishness of where we stayed, what our costumes looked like, where we would be performing. We got to really see the world in first class style. I mean, it was a wonderful thing.
How long?
We were so young.
How long did that last? That level of status for this group,
For us,
for us? Yeah, well, I mean, for you, I mean.
about 4 years, Cassandra?
About three and a half, maybe.
3.5 to 4, yeah.
Dancers. We had a hairstylist that traveled with us.
Which was wonderful.
Yeah.
You could go swimming and still look good that night. Oh, it's wonderful.
We had a nice manager, and Lee, her name was Lee, that did our hair. She doubled as a valet, so she helped with the clothes as well.
We
So
had dancers, and we had a band that traveled with us.
Lane.
Elaine.
Take us on. Okay, so, one of the biggest records for me, I remember The Best Disco in Town. It's like the hottest track. We always remember that record. Like everybody goes, The Best Disco in Town. Right? Great song.
Thank you.
Conceptually, was it something that you came to them with, or was it something that they had? How did that all work with them? What was that like dealing with them running the show, the management, production wise? You break it down for us.
That was problematic because as exciting as it was and as privileged as we felt, it became it came to a point that we felt like glorified robots, because the concept for every album was what Jacques came up with. They would go into the studio and they would record the music. And until I think we did our last music, which was African Queens, they really didn't make sure that the keys were right for us. We worked through it though. I mean, we managed, but we thought like, wow, this song should be in a different key. And we had no say about any of the music. And personally, for me, coming from an R&B background, I wasn't in love all the time with the music. I grew to love it, but I felt like I wanted a little more R&B incorporated into the sound, but that was not to be. And as a result, I think that's what put us on a road with Jacques, so that the relationship began to break down, because he wanted glorified robots. He wanted to tell us how we should wear our hair on and off stage, and everything that we could and could not wear. We couldn't pick out our own costumes. We liked the ones that he picked out, but we really had no say. So it got to be a little bit contentious. And, as I said, the relationship began to break down, and there were arguments and things that were said that were unkind, and, then you're not speaking, and the relationship just broke down over the 3 years.
Was it just that he was a control freak, would you say?
I think so. That's how I interpreted it. Our ideas were so bad, but they just weren't entertained or even given a second thought. he says, you know, I am this, I am that, I know how this should be. And it just made us feel like we were just glorified robots.
Wanted no input. But originally, it seemed like he wanted a group that was similar to LaBelle, because that's how we look kind of on that album cover.
Yeah.
With the Nights. But then he started also liking the Supremes. So it was like gowns and furs. And, you know, so it was like he wanted like a composite of those two groups in a sense, I thought. But it was what it was, and we endured it, and we lived, and then we ended up not being there for a while.
All right. We'll get to that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that in a minute. So the songs were already pre-presented.
They were there. You just went in and they said, sing this.
Oh, they handed you the sheets? They just handed you the chart sheets that go in?
No, they would play the music and say, sing this. Sheet music, no. And I could read, but they didn't, you know, they weren't interested in that. It was sing this. So we would sing it, and then, can you harmonize with that? Yeah, sure. So we would harmonize, and we would do different things. But as Cassandra said, it was more like we were robots. But we weren't robots, because we actually had minds and had some ideas that we wanted to share, even if he shot them down. But he didn't want to hear anything but what was about him. That was it.
Oh, really?
If he could have been a girl and been in the group, he would have been in that group. I'm telling you, because he really, everything he had for us to do, I'm sure he wished he could have done it himself, but he couldn't because he was a guy.
I never got to meet Jocks. I never got to meet him, but I heard the stories about him.
He was an interesting person. He was definitely an interesting person. He had good points and bad points. Sometimes you loved him. Sometimes you were like, oh my God, can I put up another minute with this guy? And he was very outspoken about our personal lives as well as our professional lives.
Oh, really? It was like that, huh?
Mm.
Oh, really? Like you girls were Stepford wives, basically. You do as I say and don't do as what I tell you. You do it this way, right?
Pretty much. You know, it's like if we wanted to date people, the thing is with Jacques, it was funny because we didn't date on the road as much as he thought that we should have, since we had the opportunity. You know, girls, you know, these guys, they're so beautiful. Why don't you go out with them? You know, so his idea of what we should be doing was different from our ideas of what we should be doing and how we should be doing it. Jacques was very free with his love. And I guess he thought that we should be that way too. And I guess it was during that time that was commonplace, but we didn't always feel like, you know, that's the route that we wanted to go. We were more interested in really the music and some serious shopping.
Actually, the only one of us that was actually free for all this dating that he wanted us to do was Cassandra, because Gwendolyn had Fred, and I was married at the time to someone that was living in Cleveland. So the only person that could have had that love life that he wanted somebody to have would have been Cassandra, and she wasn't interested. To her credit, by the way.
Good for you, Cassandra.
Yeah, I think I dated one guy. I remember this guy that I can't remember his name, but he was from Turkey, and he was interesting, and we went out and we had dinner. But the problem with dating on the road, especially in Europe, I knew that it really couldn't be anything because I couldn't go back and forth to Europe. They weren't going to come to America, and it was going to be limited to what the relationship could be. So I was more interested in having relationships with the boyfriend back home, because at least when I got home, they would be there.
Yeah.
I understand that. And in those days, it took a lot longer traveling around the world. It wasn't like it is now. It took a lot longer to prepare to go around the world. There's a lot of work involved to get around the world in those days.
Yes. But it was freer too. We didn't have to go through all the airport security and craziness that you have to go through now. So
that's right. There was no transponders to check you with all your luggage. You just went right to the gates, right from Just like walk right over, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
You imagine that? Could you imagine like that now? Can you imagine that you would have nothing except you take your little satchel, you check in, and then walk right to the gate?
And you don't have to show up. We didn't have to show up 2 hours before flight time. You know, it wasn't necessary.
No, nothing was necessary then. Just champagne waiting. You had the piano in first class.
Yeah.
You guys, I mean, did he travel to all the gigs with you, Jocks? Or were you on your own with your staff?
At first they did. And then, you know, like for the first year or so. But then they slowed down. They had a road manager for us. So they weren't everywhere. They were just like half the time they were with us, but not like it was in the beginning before they got the road manager. They were there to do everything. And, you know, things just changed after a while.
So as you guys are getting stressed in the group, okay, and not being able to share the ideas, what are you doing as the 3 years are going on? You just going on the road, doing the gigs, getting paid, of course, and all that. Are you starting to make a decision we're going to leave him? Like, was this being discussed like a coup? Say, I'm going to roll out?
No, we thought we could work with him. We thought we could work out whatever issues we had, but they surprised us and hired 3 new people and told us that we were not going to be working with them anymore.
But Cheryl, there was a time that Gwen came to the conclusion that she did not want to work with them anymore.
Yeah.
So
she was sick, though. That was part of the problem. She had asthma that was bothering her on the road, and it was too much.
And she didn't want to do it anymore. She had decided she really didn't want to do it anymore, besides having the illness, you know, the asthma, and she just was ready to step off. And I had hoped that she didn't do it because as my best friend and the person that I'd always sang with, I didn't want to see her go. But I knew her health dictated it, and she had one small child. When we went on the road as the Ritchie family, her baby was 6 months old, and it was very hard for her being separated from her child.
No, I can understand that. That's
But
hard.
Cassandra and I were going to continue. That was our original intention.
Yeah.
But it wasn't meant to be.
So what happened? What did he do? Wait, stop. Let's ask the question the right way. One day you're on the road, everything is peaches and cream. What you think? Next minute, what'd you do? Go to a session and you were replaced? What happened?
Went to meetings.
I got called to New York, and I knew something was up because we were called to come up to New York to Can't Stop Productions, one at a time, not as a group, but one at a time. And when we were called up one at a time, you know, we had our talk with Henri. Jacques wasn't even there, and pretty much said that, you know, at the end of this particular contract period, then that was going to be it. They decided that they wanted to go in another direction or something to that effect. And at the time, you know, I felt kind of arrogant, like, okay, so what? Fine, you know, do whatever you want to do. I don't care. And I really felt that way, you know, but when I looked back on it, you know, a few years after that, I really felt like a part of me had been cut off and I didn't have a warning. And I just said to myself, I don't care. But in my heart, yes, I did care. And I never allowed myself to really go there because I knew that it would hurt and I'd miss it. So I decided I'm not going to really do this again, only background work or whatever. But it was a hurt. It was a hurt, and it was a big come down.
I was called as well, and I had my personal meeting. They asked me to stay, but told me I had to lose 20 more pounds. I think I weighed 125 at the time, and train some new girls that they were going to hire. I'm not training anybody, and I'm certainly not losing weight. And the third thing they said I had to do was move to New York City. And I was leaving my ex-husband and taking my son with me and moving to Philadelphia area. And I had no intentions of taking my young child, who was maybe at that time was about 5, I think, and move him to New York City, where he would have nothing to do or anything. And then I go off on the road and he gets left in New York City with strangers. So at that point, I quit. And that was the first time I ever quit a job without having a job to go to. So it's a little shocking.
People wrote, what? This is like, see, everybody writing, what? Is it writing, like, what? No, everybody's writing, what? Like, what? Question?
And we were told by Phil Hurt, he said he came into the studio ready to teach us our next songs. And there were 3 new girls sitting there. He was like,
Who are these girls?
So anyway, so we went off to our regular lives, and we did that for a while. And then Cassandra and I tried to form another group. Of course, we couldn't use the name, the Ritchie Family. So we named ourselves Casmajack, Cassandra. We hired got a young woman named Michelle who was with us, and that was the M. And my last name at the time was Jacks, Mason Jacks. So Casmajack was the name of our group. And we ended up doing the background vocals for John Lennon's last album. Thought we were going to go on tour with him, and then that dude murdered him.
1980. So that's 1980.
Right. Yeah, took care of that. So at that point, we just said, oh, well, I guess we're not supposed to do this. And we started going into our regular lives. I started working for the School District of Philadelphia as an administrator. Cassandra had other jobs and things that she was doing. And many years went by. I kept saying to Cassandra, we should sing again. And she was like, no, that ship has sailed. I don't feel like doing it. I said, we should really sing again. So one day Cassandra calls me up and she said, I am so sick and tired of looking on YouTube and all these places and seeing these other girls, the new girls, singing, but they're moving their lips and our voices are coming out. And she was getting upset about it. So we decided to do something on our own.
But here's something people are thinking about at home right now. You know, everybody knows about Beyonce and those big groups of today, and everybody's making, Jenny from the Block money and all this beautiful stuff. Now, we know those albums went big, and they were gold and platinum selling albums that you girls were on. Were you able to share in any of the finances that Jocks and them were earning from the Can't Stop production side, besides the actual money that you were going out to perform in those days?
No, absolutely not, because the percentage of what we got from our music was very, very small. We were told that we weren't, this is by an attorney, we weren't really in a good bargaining position. And as a result, we were salaried and our expenses were paid. But the percentage that we got for the music was small. But when they let us go and decided to form another group, we didn't hear from them. It was only about, I'm going to say about 10, maybe 11 years ago that we finally started getting royalties because
from them.
The organization Sound Exchange, they got in touch with Cheryl. And Cheryl, you can tell this part.
Well, I was still in SAG. I was in AFTRA at the time. And they located me through AFTRA. And then I contacted Cassandra and I contacted Gwen and told them that we were being sought after to give us royalties that were due us from sales of records and things from around the world. As far as Can't Stop Productions, they were supposed to be giving us money, and they never did until, it was about 5 or 6, 10 years ago, they started giving us very, very, very small checks because they claimed that we owed them money for all those beautiful trips we took and all those hotels we stayed in. And when we finished paying them back for that, then they would give us some money.
Oh, wow. So you're basically telling me that they were looking for you for the mechanical royalties, the mechanical side, because that's the performance. I'm going to guess you guys, like you said, let me make sure this is clear. You didn't write anything, correct?
No.
Right. We didn't write anything.
So you didn't have any in the publishing, but you were going to get on the mechanical.
Correct.
Right.
And we were supposed to get a certain percentage from the records that we recorded with them. But they were holding that. And you would have to pay somebody to come and look at their books. And we didn't have the money to do that. So it just had to go on and on.
Because with them and like a lot of the labels back in the day, there's an A set of books, there's the B set of books, and then there's that you're going to see, which is going to be a C set of books, you know, the Mafia books, the Jewish books, and then the C books. There's 3 different books. And I know that because
you had died. That's the books that we would have gotten to see.
The C book.
We don't owe you a dime book.
Here's the negative: 1,650,000. You've only paid 60,000 of it. We still got another million to go. You know, it's like,
yeah.
Holy smoke! I can't believe this. I shouldn't say I can't believe it. I can believe this happens because this is the story you hear with all the groups. All the groups.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know what else? After we found out, you know, that there was money out there, the statute of limitations had set in, and as a result, no lawyer would go and try to go back because too much time had passed. And what we found out is that they only had to go back a certain amount of years. And we did talk to Henri. Henri gave us a bump as far as a greater percentage, which was much, you know, it was better, but it was still small. And, you know, he went back, I think, a few years, but during the time when we made the most money, he didn't go back that far.
Of course not.
We couldn't reap the benefits from then. So, but, you know, thank God we still get royalties today, and we get royalties from our John Lennon music as well. So I'm okay. You know, I'm not bitter. It happened the way that it did, but you move on, and I can't let that be, you know, on my chest too heavy because I still enjoy doing the music. And when we do get paid, I feel like it's a blessing at this stage of the game to still be getting paid to do what we love.
No, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful attitude, Cassandra. And thank God, you know, as much as we all said disco died, it never died. It never died.
No.
That's a cliche, that Chicago thing. That was just something
but it did not die.
never died. It just went a little bit, let's put it like this, on pause for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for people to reset. Because now Rob says it. 1 minute you got the biggest hit record, and next minute you're part of that disco thing. Well, we don't want to know you. You know, it's like,
Yeah, but they took the beats.
Yes, they did.
They took the beats.
damn right.
You know, you took those beats.
Took
and
those
it
beats.
It lived through those beats. It lived on and on and on. It still is.
I think that the dance music that we're doing now is a version of a disco. Rappers kind of took on some of the things. I mean, it influenced other genres of music.
No, you know what? I got to give it to that Philly son, Earl Young. That 4/4 beat went all the way. Oh, Lord help us, Earl Young, wherever you are. If he's watching, you know he checks in every time. That boy, Mr. Time Machine, knocking it down for everybody.
That's true.
We played on all those sessions, you know?
Well, I wanted to ask about the John. See, now I had no idea about the John. I want to know about the John Lennon sessions. That's the next. We're going to get into the next question because I'm like sitting here going, you girls are on that too? I want to know which songs you sang on because I saw the movie with Yoko Ono, the one on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't remember seeing the background sessions. You did the New York sessions, right?
Correct.
Started.
And we didn't want to be starstruck, so we didn't ask for autographs. We didn't take any pictures. We thought he was going to take us with us on the road. So
Cassandra said yes, you did.
Where are they?
We didn't take the pictures, but there were a gazillion pictures taken while we were in the studio, and I want to know where are they. But I remember all the pictures that were taken. They took so many, and they're somewhere.
I'm talking about us personally. We personally did not take any pictures.
But there were pictures of us taken in the studio, and a number of them. I remember it so clearly. And over the years, I've always wondered, where are those pictures?
Now, Cassandra, I saw the sessions that they have the movie of that album before it's on Netflix. They said part of the album was done in England in his house that they built a studio for, and the rest was done in New York.
That's
New York.
And how many songs did you guys sing on? Do you remember what that was?
We did Woman. And oh shucks, what's the other one that I love so much?
Starting Over and Woman.
Starting Over and Woman. You're on
a couple of songs for Yoko, but I don't think she used us when she did her final.
Oh Christ Almighty! You would probably outsing her.
After she put her vocals down, that we do background. They kind of giggled about it, but they definitely wanted us on there, and they put us on there. But when the music was released, I guess she overrode whatever it was that they tried to do, because they took our vocals off. But we were still on Starting Over and Woman. And when it won for Album of the Year, it was like, wow. But yeah, that was a great experience because we were awestruck. We were so impressed. John was a really, really, really nice man.
He knew how to treat you ladies, right? He treated you right. He treated you really.
Yes.
And he asked us if we'd be available to go with him on the road. And we said, absolutely. We were so excited. We were going to go on the road with John Lennon. And then
Sirhan comes in.
And we were told that he told us he was going to autograph some CDs for us or albums for us. We never got them because once he was killed, people swooped in and took everything. So there might be an album out there somewhere that says To Cheryl.
This is what I'm saying, girls. We never knew that the Ritchie family did. I'm sitting here like gobsmacked. No, we love you as the Ritchie family. We're like, yo, you work with John Lennon on the last album
as Casma Jack.
Yes,
as Casma Jack.
Casma Jack.
Who's the production people behind Casma Jack? Was there songs released? Was there anything that?
No, the only thing we were going to do background vocals. That's what we were getting ourselves ready to do. And then we got hired to do John Lennon's last album.
Who introduced you? Who got you into John Lennon's world? What was that? Who?
What happened, Cassandra? I can't remember.
Cassandra, come on, girl. Get that.
Okay.
Let's break it down.
One of our writers, Bill Hurt, he had a friend at Columbia Records. Her name was Peggy Cherry. And she knew that John Lennon needed background vocalist. He recommended us, and we were definitely interested. We went to New York, and we sang a little bit for him, and we went in. It was me, Cheryl, and Michelle. And a combination of our names is how we came up with Casma Jack. And that's how we did it. He said, how do you want your name on the album? As Casma Jack or your individual names? And I said both. So if you look on that record jacket, you will see Casma Jack, and then you will see our individual names. And
let me tell you something. There's people checking Discogs right now, and they're giving it a big fat wow.
Yeah,
I swear to God, man, we're right. They're going, my God. See, now here's, again, True House Stories. Unbelievable that we're hearing the John Lennon story through disco. Craziness. I love that. Wow. I want to hear about the greatest gigs. Who cares? I want to hear about all the, the nitty gritty, because nobody reads. I never read any of this. It doesn't exist anywhere. None of this exists, Cassandra. I knew nothing of this, and I'm a pretty good avid reader too. I love disco history because I know the music, been out dancing, DJed many years, and I've never read this nor heard anyone ever say anything about this. This is like first time I'm hearing this. Going, whoa, gobsmacked, man! Wow.
You got the scoop.
Impressiveness. So, did you say Bill Hurt or Phil Hurt introduced you?
Yeah.
So Phil Hurt was on Fantasy Records too. He had some big hit records too, I remember.
He's a wonderful songwriter.
He wrote a lot of hit records.
For the Spinners, what was it? I'll Be Around. He wrote a lot of, he wrote for the OJs.
He wrote for us.
Sledge.
He wrote for you.
Yeah.
Wrote for Sister Sledge.
Yeah. I think he did some Village People stuff too, didn't he?
Yeah.
My God.
He's the one that told us he went into the studio and expected to see.
Didn't he co-write some of the lyrics or things for Best Disco?
I believe he did.
Bill Hurt?
Together. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he helped arrange and put that together. He was not to rehearse with, on the piano to pull all the songs together.
So you walking in on a Phil Hurt session, Phil's sitting behind a piano? Is he staffing out? What's he doing? Like when he's doing his thing? You ever witness any of that? Especially when he's writing for you girls?
I don't know if Phil played on the sessions because the musicians recorded separately from us. But when we'd go into the studio to learn the music, we sat down, stood up around with Phil. That's how we learned the music. You know, he and Jacques had worked some things out, and I guess Jacques made him understand what it was he wanted. And Phil worked with us, and we gave them what they wanted.
Now, let me ask you, Cassandra, because now I'm really understanding this.
Okay.
Was Jacques a hands-on guy or a guy with dreams and with money to say, I want this guy who, because I know he wrote this hit song and put together a team. Was that what he was doing? Or was he really musically, there?
No, he was the money guy and he was the idea guy. But I would not ever underestimate his ideas because they worked. They worked with village people. They worked with us. And in as much as we had some problems with Jacques, his attitude and his his, what do you call it? Just being a little bit too hands-on as far as controlling us a little bit.
Well, that's another part. We know that the controlling part, but I'm just talking about, there's people that are phenomenal A&R guys. Then there's guys like Clive Davis that are lawyers that have a good ear. They're not musical people. They just got a good ear. They know when they hear something, they go, I'm going to sign that. I'm going to sign Santana. I'm going to go and pick up this jazz group because he just had a good ear.
That was Jacques pretty much. He knew what he wanted. He knew what sound he wanted, but he couldn't sing. He couldn't play an instrument, but he could tell you what he wanted. And when he heard it, he could say, that's it. And he was able to direct his energy to get what he wanted. And all these years later, even though we had some problems with Jacques, I can say that the music we did with him stood the test of time. Absolutely. And I can't be mad at that.
No matter how angry and stupid he could have been as a person and do the nonsense he did, but when you talk about the music holds testament.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I know he was flamboyant. Now, we all know that. Jacques was very, because I knew on the other side, the village people is more so-called such as when you put together a gay group, really not gay to the commercial side of it, but in the sense, it was a sexual revolution time. It was the 70s. Things were, like you said before, love, sex, music, everything. Lots of it. And a lot of those guys are not here today because of it. Died because of the AIDS and the drugs. Yep.
That happened to Jacques. He died of AIDS.
Yes, I remember hearing that. And it was in the mid-'80s, I think, if I remember right.
By the time we heard about it, Jacques had been dead probably for about 15 years. We didn't know
about it.
Much. When I found out, I was shocked. It was like, oh my God, I had no idea. But yeah, that was what we heard he died of.
15 years. Wow,
we did like Jacques. I mean, he was a likable person, but he also was an unlikable person at times.
I think it's really hard when you don't have creative freedom. That's a challenge. If you're a creative and you're an artist and your hands are kind of tied behind you, you're not able to give out your own creative influence. That's challenging.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Okay. So now paint us the picture on the best gig you ever had at that time. In the time of the high of this whole thing and your world changes.
My favorite, although I loved everything we did, was when we went to Poland. And we did a show in Poland at in Warsaw at the Sopot Festival. That's my favorite because it was long. We got to extend songs out. The crowd was huge. And we were the first American group to go into the Soviet bloc and perform on their Soviet bloc TV. So, I mean, that's one of my favorites. Although, like I said, I liked a lot of the other things we did, but that one
So
stood
let
out.
me ask the question, being that you were the first American women's group to cross into the Soviet bloc, what was it to get in there? Was it hard?
I don't remember it being hard. Do you, Cassandra? I think they had worked out all the details of us getting in and doing whatever we were going to do. I don't remember it being hard or difficult in any way.
The people, I think they looked at us, I don't think they saw a lot of black people. I remember this little old lady came up, and she touched my face and she just patted it, and she just looked at me. She was smiling real sweet. And she had on this real red lipstick. I always remember the little lady, cute little lady, it's an older woman, but she seemed fascinated because I don't think in her lifetime she'd seen a lot of black people. And we were in Warsaw at the time. And, she just patted my face and I was like, oh my goodness. So I felt like, a little connection there. So
that's crazy, right? Because here you are, we live in America, we have all melting pot around us, and these Russian people are coming up to you, touching you like you're not real, making sure that, is she really real? No, cannot be. It's fine. So that's, again, this is pre-everything. This is the 70s, because, rock and roll had its first initial big breakouts late 60s. You guys are not far behind.
When you see the film of the Soap Opera Festival, the other thing that's interesting to me is that everybody's in suits and they're dressed up and they're just sitting there watching us. They're not jumping up and down like American groups do, and the Italians would want to touch you and everything, be all up on the stage with you. These people stayed in their seats and they watched us in their suits and dresses and hats and stuff, almost looked like they were going to church. But we were performing for them, and then at the end they were going and clap for us and everything, and then we do the next songs, and I loved it.
Like a golf clap. Cassandra, for you, what was the best one, hon? Best gig ever?
I cannot pick a particular one. I think the Soap Opera is definitely up there, but there were so many great discos all over Europe, and every one that we played was fascinating. They were huge. The dance floors were crowded, and they were really elaborate. So I would just say the dance clubs that we played was really impressive for me. And I think another one that stands out, we played for the King and Queen over in Manila in the Philippines. That was pretty special as well.
Like the Philippines too. Mm-hmm.
Cheryl, just a question for you. Ethnicity, are you all white? Are you mixed at all?
I'm not white at all. I have white folks in my family. But that was an issue when we were on the road. They would, I don't care what language they said it, they'd say 2 blacks and 1 white. I could always say, excuse me. And people in other countries don't understand light-skinned people being light-skinned people. And there's lots of lights. I came from a long line of light-skinned people, and where I lived, there were lots of light-skinned people. When I moved to Philadelphia is where I had to look for them because they were hiding out somewhere. But I'm mixed race, but I've been raised African-American as a child and all the way through. My church that I went to was the AME church, was African-American Episcopal.
The reason why I say that is because when you see the covers, and the pictures, you see, Cassandra, Gwendolyn, and yourself, and you say, okay. And my wife, who's another big fan of your group, okay, she says, well, they're all black. I says, yeah, but when you look at the picture and you don't know, you think the 2 black singers and 1 white singer.
And see, I don't think I look white, so I have a hard time with that.
No, I think it's fabulous. I think it's amazing. No, the whole thing is just, look, when people first met me and they heard me making these records in the beginning, everybody thought I was black making black dance music. They thought for sure it was black. They says, you're not black. Just like that. And when I used to go like this.
Because people, some people pass. That's where the passing comes from.
I have family members that do that, but my part of the family did not pass.
There you go. Well, you know what? This is why I ask these true house stories. It's not to insult anybody, but people thinking these things. I have the album covers. I've seen the albums, and I was always impressed by the beauty of the women. I was like, wow, look how nice everyone looks. Dressed to the hilt. Love the Egyptian look. I love everything. Arabian Nights. I love the whole thing. It was like, what a great concept. Now,
And one of the songs in African Queen says, 3 queens, 3 different shades of love. And that's us. We were 3 different shades. And even now with Renee, there's 3 different shades of us and what we are.
all right now. All right. Since now we got the best gigs, tell us the dark side. One of the worst experiences that you can remember. On
The worst. I think I almost got left one time. I was late getting to the plane. I think I was late getting to the plane because my ex-husband moved us back to Cleveland. Ugh. That's why I said to Cleveland.
People who are watching from Cleveland, please share
I'm
this.
sorry, Cleveland. That experience is there.
Flats. I always think of the flats when you think of Cleveland. The
It's
flats.
still Ohio, so I still love you. But I think I missed my plane that day because my ex-husband was real slow on getting me to the plane. And they had closed the door and they refused to open it up. And so I was late getting to was it a rehearsal? Were we rehearsing in New York, Sandra? I can't remember. I just remember I was late. And I remember Jacques and Henri were very upset about the whole thing. Another time that was bad for me was I left some rings in the bathroom and somebody stole them. But other than that.
Oh, that happens. That can happen anywhere. You could be at the casino.
I took them off to wash my hands because I'd eaten a burger and it got juice and everything. And I laid them on the sink and heard that voice inside say, "You better put those rings back on." And I said, "Oh, I'll do it when I finish." I went to the bathroom. I heard somebody come in. Somebody left. I came out, forgot all about my rings because they weren't there. Went to sit at the gate, and all of a sudden the weight on my hand didn't feel right. I said, "My rings." I run back to the place. They held the plane for me that time. Ran back. Rings are gone. So that was the end of that story for those rings. But that's the only bad thing.
That feeling of your heart going to your stomach, that horrible feeling. I know that feeling. You feel it.
They were really nice rings. But anyway.
Oh.
I kept wishing bad things on the other person that took them. I thought they should grow a green wart on the tip of their nose so everyone know they were a thief. But that didn't happen either.
Yeah, but they didn't thief them. They probably waited for you to leave and they grabbed them. No, probably.
No,
Wow.
they took them while I was in the bathroom. I went to the toilet part
Oh.
and left them on the
You know
sink.
what? I wanted to go back up ways. I remember Lenny asking something about the band. A band.
Yes.
I love it.
It was Gypsy Lane. Am I right, ladies?
Correct.
And did they traveled with you guys?
They did. Most
Who
of
was
the
in
time.
Gypsy Lane?
Who?
Who was in the band? Do you remember?
Nathaniel,
Russell?
Larry Davis, Johnny O, Alfonso, E, Roger Lee, guys out of Philly. Most of them are still around, and
Somebody died.
Russell Dabney. Russell Dabney is actually playing with Victor Willis's Village People. He's gone on the road with them. I guess because of COVID, nobody's really working like they were.
Oh,
but
yeah.
he ended up when Victor reformed Village People, Russell ended up getting the gig and going back with him. But the guys are still out there playing. And
Dixie Lane down in Florida.
Oh, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So now comes forward now. So the band goes on hiatus for a while, you guys. And you come back together after 1980 with John Lennon, you did. What happens after John Lennon? Okay, so basically the helium is taken out of that success balloon again. Yep. Deflated. What happens now? Where do you girls go? What goes from there?
In school, and I would say just ordinary everyday existence, doing what most people do, 9 to 5, raising a family, going back to school and just, enjoying life. But, I looked at the career of an entertainer as something that I had done and would probably never, ever have an opportunity to do it again. And it was okay. In my heart, I would have loved to, but I felt like that was too big of a dream to even dare to think about.
And I continue to sing, but with choirs in church and do things like that. Fayette Pinckney was from the 3 Degrees, was in the same church I was in, and we were in the same choir together after she came off the road. I got a couple more degrees and started working for the school district of Philadelphia as a teacher at one point because they had laid me off from my administrative job. And then Cassandra decided she wanted to sing again. Finally, she said to me one day, she called me on the phone. She said, "I am so sick of looking and seeing other people moving their lips and our voices are coming out." And I said, okay. She said, "We're going to do this again. We're going to do this." I said, okay. So then
it was just like that pregnant pause. Okay, like, okay.
Yeah, it's like, okay. So then the two of us started looking for someone else to perform with us because Gwen was out of the question. She had not only decided not to sing that music, but she also had moved out of town to South Carolina. So we auditioned a few people and tried them out. None of them worked out too well. That's when we found Michelle that ended up being with us in Casmajack. And then we stopped for a while, and then we decided to start again. And one of my friends, who's a mutual friend of all of us, said, "Oh, I know a woman that could sing. Her name is Renee. I can't think of her last name, but it starts with a W." I said, "Oh, okay." So she said, "She's on Facebook." I said, "All right." So I go on Facebook and I look for a Renee with a W for her last name. And I found one. And I start contacting her, and I'm talking to her and back and forth in Messenger. And then I said, "Yeah, Vicky suggested that I talk to you about her." She said, "Who's Vicky?" I said, "Huh." So that's when I realized I had the wrong Renee. And so I went back to Vicky and I said, "This person I'm talking to in New York." She said, "Oh no, she lives in Philly. And she works for the school district of Philadelphia too." So she gave me her real last name by then. And that's when we contacted Renee and got Renee to come and start singing with us. So I had another Renee in mind for a minute, and she could sing. And we even went to see her perform in a program that came here from New York. But she wasn't the right Renee. And the Renee we got is the right Renee for us.
There you go. Cassandra just documented. She said, "For sure." So now, Renee, the phone call comes to you, girl. And what?
Hey,
come on now. Step up.
2011. Yes. The young lady who I knew in the school district of Philadelphia, she let me know. She said, "Renee, somebody's going to be contacting you to ask, if you wanted to sing in a group." And I was like, "Okay, no problem." And I went to meet the ladies. Now, let me just admit right now, right here and now, I had absolutely no idea what I was getting into. I had no idea that the group was as big as they were. I thought this was a local singing group, that we would just be having some fun. And when I looked and researched, I said, "Oh my God!" I was totally blown away by, their history and their contribution to the industry. And I was just overwhelmed and very happy and proud to be chosen. And we've been moving along and, doing things here and there every year. And things just started getting, more and more interesting. I can tell you this, when we talked about the royalties and the things that people getting ripped off over the years, that's, I think, a lot of the reason why a lot of people choose not to get managers and choose not to promote themselves, so to speak, because you tend to get, and I've learned this over the past few years. You tend to be very suspect when people come and approach you, because you're not sure if they're coming genuinely because they want to help and be a part of your music and what you do, or they're trying to get something from you.
Mm-hmm.
And we've, as three women, we've had to really learn the business. And again, I think the ladies will agree with me that it was a different animal back in the 70s. So here we are in 2011, trying to revamp a career in a whole and totally changing industry. And I have to tell you, we're still here and we're still fighting. And I'm trying to help as much as I can to help with our little steps that we do. And I'm very proud of.
She's being polite. She is a choreographer and she is a songwriter. She does a lot of stuff and she can sing.
All right.
Thank you.
So now, what's this rival group of Ritchie Family? You said, the other group, and I heard it with like a little bit of this. Is there another group running around besides?
No. There used to be.
What happened?
Cassandra.
Back to Cassandra. Here we go.
Okay, yeah. Well, the reason that we got back together and the reason I wanted to sing again is because there was a second lineup of the Ritchie Family, and I was aware of that when they first came after us, after we first had our departure from Jacques and Henri. However, I didn't realize that they were still working. I thought they weren't working, we weren't working. As time went on, I thought the whole Ritchie Family thing had gone bye-bye. But because of social media and because of a resurgence of interest in disco, when there was a call for the Ritchie Family, the second lineup were the ones that most people were aware of and knew how to contact, and they started doing gigs from time to time. The thing is, I didn't really realize they were working until I got on Facebook and saw where they were performing over in Holland. They had a 35-year anniversary of Studio 54 or something, and the special guest was the Ritchie Family. And when I saw that, we said, "Oh no," excuse my expression, "oh hell no." These ladies are out there. I don't mind it that they sing our song, but they can't be called the Ritchie Family, sing our music. Everybody that thinks that they're the ones that performed the music in the first place. Because my son was born after the Ritchie Family. And I said, from now on, and of his age range would all be the originals. He would never have the opportunity to see his mom in the light of our contribution and who we were as the original. So anyway, that was a long way of saying that was the thing that sparked me to want to get back into it. And that's when, I had contacted Cheryl and said, "Oh yeah, we got to do this again." At either rate, once we decided to do it again, we knew there could not be two Ritchie Families running around. And the reason being is because it's confusing, and it probably still is to a degree, confusing, and people wouldn't know who they're coming to see. When they see the Ritchie Family on a marquee, well, who are they seeing? Are they seeing the originals or are they seeing the second lineup? So because people wanted to hear Brazil, they wanted to hear Best Disco, they wanted to hear Life is Music, that's who they decided they really wanted to hire. And at a point,
we lost.
Okay. Lost her, but I'll finish the story for now.
Go ahead.
I went to a lawyer, and we were going to sing, but we had to have a name, and we weren't going to be Casmajack. So we said we were going to try to pick her back up. Okay. So we went to the lawyer and we said, well, how about if we call ourselves the original Ritchie Family? He said, no, you can't call yourself that. That's like saying you're the original Campbell soup. So he said, but I noticed that nobody's owned this name for 10 years. And we said, oh, well, somebody does now. So we trademarked the name.
Good for
And
you.
yeah, so we are now the Ritchie Family for real. And we sent letters to the other young ladies telling them that they could no longer perform under that name. So we are the Ritchie Family.
So the cease and desist went out from you to say to them.
Our lawyer sent a letter. And they sent us one and said, no, you cease and desist. And we said, no. We own the name and we're never going to let it go. Whenever it comes up for renewal, we pay our money to keep it renewed, do what we have to do to perform as the Ritchie Family because we are the Ritchie Family. Cassandra forgot to mention that when she went on Facebook, I wasn't doing all that social media stuff then. She got in contact or was contacted by a gentleman from Amsterdam, from the Netherlands, Hans. I always mess up Hans' last name. Can you fix it for me, Renee?
De Vries. He'll kill us. I know he's listening.
Yeah, he's going to tell us. Hans was the one that told Cassandra that people still cared about whether or not we performed or not, because we didn't even know. We didn't know anybody cared about what happened to us or anything.
What are you talking about, girl? We all cared.
No, we didn't know. We didn't know. How could we know? There was no social media then. There was nothing to tell us what was going on. If it hadn't been for Hans telling Cassandra, and then she finally started looking some of the stuff up, that's how she saw the program in Amsterdam and got upset. So anyway, things had a way of working out, and it helped us that he started a tribute page. He has a tribute page for us and for the other, the second line as well.
Well, you know what? At least you got to live out the dream in the end. You know, in the end, later on, and I could say in the end, but you didn't have Ritchie. You didn't have, I was going to say Ritchie. You didn't have Jacques Morale putting his fist up saying, stop. You know?
We don't. And we can.
Matter of fact, one of the things, what really was one of the highlights of my being in the group is when we were actually approached by James Washington out of Las Vegas, who had us do a project in New York with under Purple Rose Records, which is Martha Wash's record label, and the songwriter Zach Adam, who wrote
New York.
From New York, up in to Long Island. Ice is the song that we came out with in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And
this is Martha Wash's label?
Yes, it is.
Because Martha Wash lives right in my area. She's North Baldwin, right over here.
I know she's in Long Island, right?
It's right near me.
That's yes. So they and they brought us to New York, and we recorded it, and I'm very honored that 40 years after the recording of the best disco in town, Ice hit the charts for the top 40 in dance club dance music. Yes, we hit number 40, top 40 in 2016. Also, the recipient of a couple of awards, the Rhythm and Blues, National Rhythm and Blues awarded us Unsung Award. I think that was 2019, right? That was just last year.
Yes.
Along with the Legends of Vinyl Award, also in 2019. And going back to 2018, we actually went to Guillory-Wearing. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
There we go. She's back. Here comes our girl. She'll correct it for us. We got you back.
Okay.
All right. No, because all of a sudden we lost you. We're up to, I don't know, where are we up to now? Italy now. She's talking about you guys came in 2016 to record with Martha Wash's label, Ice.
Okay.
Okay. And Legends of Vinyl gave you guys an award. I know that. I remember hearing about that. Congratulations.
National Rhythm and Blues. Vanessa Jordan is the president, CEO of National Rhythm and Blues. And we got the Unsung. As a matter of fact, Phil Hurt.
Presented.
presented it.
Yeah, Senator Phil Hurt presented it.
And when he got honored, we presented him with his award, I think a year before or so, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a year before.
Like that. But anyway, we went to Italy in 2018. Wow, that was such a wonderful experience. And what I found that was amazing is that everybody loved disco. I mean, it wasn't just one group of people. The children were there, families. I mean, it was just all people were there and embracing us as well as the music.
You got to realize something. Europe never stopped loving dance music. It was only America that went crazy for it. Right. America went crazy because by the time they said that Saturday Night Fever happened, this was the thing that was going on in the music industry. They said disco was dead already. But crazy at 75, 76, they were saying this already.
Didn't they have a session to burn the albums or something?
Yeah, that was Kaminsky Park in 1979. But pre to Saturday Night Fever, it was already kind of like declining somewhat. But in Europe, dance music has always been embraced as fun-loving music that people want to hear, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not just them, not the people of our generation, but their children and their children's children. That's what's different from the way it is here. Their children know our songs just as well and could sing along with them when we were in Italy as their parents, which was surprising.
That was a pretty wonderful experience. And then, the other thing I think has been interesting, and I speak, I have to talk from my perspective because I came so late into the group. But, when you asked about the other ladies and all, I mean, they do have their music. Mm-hmm. However, from what I've experienced, they did the original lineup's music, but they also had their own that they obviously were recorded through the early 80s, ladies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when we came back together, when the group formed, we learned that their music as well as our own.
Because we could our music.
So our shows, because our fans know the body of work. They know the music. And as Cassandra was saying earlier, and some people are still confused as to who did what.
Well,
because
let me clarify something. Something that people don't even realize, and it's so obvious. I'm going to go to a male group named Harold Melvin and his Blue Notes.
Mm-hmm.
Without Teddy Pendergrass singing, there is no Harold Melvin and his Blue Notes because, thank you, it's like, it doesn't sound like, no matter who they put in that position, they do some great shows. I've seen the shows they do. It's not Teddy Pendergrass.
Right.
So,
go ahead. Well, I'm sorry.
Then as now we go forward, if I understand Jacques Morale, he used probably the same studio musicians he always used on everything.
Mm-hmm.
It means if you sounded like them on the first album, that means everything sounds uniform. Even the ones you did, of course, that you of your own sound, and then the ones that came after are not those girls singing then.
Well, they had different girls in the lineup. It wasn't just three. They started off with three. Somebody left. I think altogether going in and out, it might have been 4 or 5 different girls that was in that lineup. So I like the fact that Cheryl and I are originals, and that never wavered, never changed. And the only person that we added to our lineup was Renee.
Right. And I'm assuming if Gwendolyn would have said yes, you would have had before Renee saying, of course, before you met Renee, she would have been right here now.
Yes.
Absolutely. And so, given that, we learned the songs that we saw were hits, even by the other ladies. I'll Do My Best. I know it's very, 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 very well known.
1982.
Right. Exactly. And
that's way after you girls, like way after.
But we do that song.
Do you?
And American Generation. We do that song because it's the body of work that the people
when we do a show, what Renee is saying is true. When we do a show, we choose the songs that we know people want to hear. And the body of work is what we choose our songs from. And we do some covers from other artists as well.
Yes.
Right. And we don't always use the second lineup songs, but I'll do my best and kind of a mainstay. Mostly we're doing like 3, maybe 4 songs on the show, you know, so we kind of stick to the ones that we know are the most popular and the ones that people want to hear. And that's what it's all about, because we're not out there just for ourselves. We're out there to give the people what they want and to give them a full show with music that sounds familiar, that they can clap their hands to, dance to, and just get their groove on.
Cassandra, while you were gone, I tried to say Hans's last name. Are you able to say it, Hans de Vries?
De Vries.
Hans de Vries.
Amsterdam. Mm-hmm.
Who we want to make sure that we add, met us in Italy. We had never seen him.
Yes, he did.
We had never seen him. We just talked on Facebook. And
it's funny about the Holland connection, because I'll tell you another thing that I remember, because Earl Young spoke about when the Burn Baby Burn, Disco Inferno thing exploded, okay? Half the group wanted to go to Holland because there was a slew of gigs at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And he was home and he just got married to Sylvia, okay? And he had a baby coming. And his story is like this. You got a #1 record that's in a movie, Saturday Night Fever, going crazy. Record's a massive hit. And he takes a doorman's job. Okay? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he took a doorman's job to support his family at the time, while lead singer in the group got this contract deal and they want to go to Holland. He's like, I ain't going to Holland. I ain't going to Holland. He said just like that. And the band split up. And that's how things happen. Because money has a funny way of making things go around. You know, it just makes all kinds of crazy. When I heard that, I was like, what do you mean you went to go work as a doorman?
I think it was priorities. His family came first.
Yeah. And I understand that. Here's a guy that's played on 6,000 records from OJ's to every major group that came out of Philly. He played pretty much on everybody's records. He probably even played on your record too.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Where is Earl Young? Bring him up here. He probably played on your records. That sounds like his beat when you hear the drum beat.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And you go from you're the hottest thing out with the hottest group to the group says sayonara. And you hear this all the time. Mm-hmm. And I asked him that question. He said, the Tramps was my design. I outfitted the group. We all wanted to look like one. And that was where the mistake happened. Instead of having it where they were the lead people out, people didn't realize. And to this day, there's 5 Tramp groups going around. It's sad. You got the real Tramps.
One of them was in Italy with us.
Yeah. I don't think it was Earl Young's Tramps. It was probably No, it was the other Tramp band. Whitelaw. He's one of the singers from the original group. I can't remember his name now. But I know I saw him at the Saturday Night Fever reunion that they did in Brooklyn in 2017. And it wasn't, I was sitting there going, this is not Earl's band. I know Earl Young, and I know this, even though his singers are not the original, at least Earl, is. So I can understand with you ladies feeling, hey, this is my stuff. What are you doing? That's our voices. And it's a little bit of a gray area because Brazil comes then you girls blow up. You then take Brazil with you and create a whole nother part to the story. And then someone cuts the umbilical cord.
Yeah.
That's
you know what I found out though, Lenny? And this was the best thing in the world. You know, when you go back out there and you know that somebody else has been doing what you do under the same name, you don't know how you're going to be received. And wherever we have gone, people have told us that we always knew that The second lineup was not you girls. We always wondered what happened and where you were, and we're so glad that you're back. And that happened over and over again. And it's like, wow, that just blew me away.
God bless you, girls. You made it. You know, you made it full. As they say, a 180. I don't want to say 360. You came in and came back. Turned back and turned back around. You came right back to it, like a U-turn.
During a time when heritage artists, which we call ourselves, of course.
Oh, yes.
Of the disco era, are moving along and coming out like it's like an explosion almost, especially after James Arena his book, First Ladies of Disco.
The reason why I know your story is very exact to what Victor Willis's story of the
Village
People's fame. Him too. Gone, and Jimmy Simpson becomes a singer. And he wrote those songs. He fought with them for years over those records to get his royalties. Years on that, for that. So I'm not surprised to hear the brother group and the sister group getting treated both like stepchildren from both groups. You guys got stepchild, like both of you, even him too. He's another talented guy. And everybody said, he's dead. He had cancer. He was a drug addict. This guy's out performing with no problem. He never had a problem. But they had to do that to hide him.
Yeah, they told stories about us too. You know, they had to make an excuse for why you weren't there anymore. I mean, we'd hear from the other girls when they were on Soul Train, I think it was. They said, we all wanted to go take care of our children. So we quit.
We didn't want to sing anymore. And it was like,
we didn't sing anymore.
Where did they get that from?
Is that what they said?
Yeah, we know they got the story from Jacques. That was his version of why we left.
So the Jacques story was because you wanted to be mothers.
We wanted to raise our family.
And be homemakers, basically be homemakers.
Pretty much, yeah. It was like, really? Yeah. No, that was not the truth.
No, and that's far from the truth. The truth is, you wanted more, and he didn't want to give it up.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly.
So the deal was,
at the point where he would have had to give something more up is when they dismissed us.
So, but when you signed your production contract deal, was it just a performance deal? Or was it that you guys were tied to the names of your name, your original names to the Ritchie family? How did that work?
We were salaried. They owned the name.
Gotcha.
They owned the name. And pretty much when they wanted to swap out the performers, they had the opportunity and they decided that's what they wanted to do. Like I said, the relationship had gotten contentious. And, I think Jacques' attitude was, I'll show you. And in his own way, he did, and we didn't think at the time that we really had other opportunities that were available to us. And we kind of like shrunk back and laid back. And like I said, I psychologically got myself into the frame of mind of, well, since we can't do it, I don't care. I don't want to do it. But I was just suppressing the feeling. And I never talked about it. And many years later, when we started singing again, there's so many people said, I had no idea that you ever sang. Wow, really? It's like, yeah.
What? You never sang. What do you mean never sang?
Exactly.
We never told people. We just...
Oh, in other words, outside of this whole, in the regular world, dead and 9 to 5. Got it.
They didn't know because we didn't tell them.
Right.
Oh,
and I have to tell you, we are some hard-working ladies. We rehearse all the time.
You have to be really good. You have to do this.
Absolutely.
And I'm just really proud of how hard we've worked, to get where we are now. I mean, it's amazing and it's humbling at the same time. But the Ritchie family, is what we call, we're survivors. It's just, we're survivors. And that's something to be very proud of, especially in an era where the competition is so fierce and young, and and meet all the what do you call it, the stereotypical criteria that comes with the industry, so, but the one thing we do know is that the music is not like it used to be. So in a lot of ways, we're obligated. I feel that way anyway.
You're holding a torch. You really are holding a torch that unless you lived it, nobody will understand it. I tell this to everyone. Unless you on your lapel, I was there. Nobody knows the story. Nobody knows the story. They only know is the glitz and glamour, your champagne, oh, they're on the plane. They don't know all this behind the scenes. They have no idea.
So you're doing a real service, Lenny, by having artists come on and tell their story.
Absolutely.
And share it with such a wide audience. And for us, it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to kind of set the record straight, because there's some misconceptions out there and just bits and pieces of information that's not quite accurate. And, for a long time with Henri and Jacques, when the Sweethearts of Sigma had done Brazil, when we first came with Best Disco, they wanted to say that we were the ones that were on Brazil because it wasn't really a group. It was just background singers. But that wasn't accurate, and I don't mind telling it like it is.
Me either.
So do I have it correct when I said about the Ritchie Rome story about the Ritchie girls?
Well, that is slightly wrong because...
That's why I need you to correct it. Please correct it.
Yeah, and that's okay. Because what happened, he had girls that were able to come in and do the studio work. But then, he heard us, and of course, we became the group. We became the Ritchie Family. There was nobody signed to a contract as the Ritchie Family until Cheryl Gwendolyn and myself became the Ritchie Family. And because he was a producer on that first and second album, they got permission from him, and I believe they actually paid him to use his name for the group, because there was no name for the group on Brazil, except like they had to be named something. So that's how they got the name, the Ritchie Family. So we didn't get a chance to choose our name. The name was there, and we filled the bill.
And everybody thought we were supposed to be family members because we're the.
They still do.
And they would say, "Are they your sisters?" No, not really, but they are my sisters. But I think they added a T, didn't they, Cassandra, to Ritchie?
Yep.
Make it the Ritchie Family, because Ritchie Rome doesn't spell his name with a T in it.
He was a great guy. Still is.
Yes, he still is. He's a nice guy.
You still keep in touch with Ritchie Rome?
His daughter got last year.
I think he was ill.
We sent him a birthday greeting, and she said he was very appreciative, and there were tears in his eyes, and she sent us back a note saying that, and that touched our hearts. Mm-hmm. So we haven't seen him, but the communication came through from his daughter.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's a lovely man. With the our group, we not only sing, but we also dance while we're singing, which is strenuous. That was another part of our group that made our group kind of stand out from other groups at the time, I think. And Ritchie, we had Richard Moten as our choreographer, who would choreograph all the songs for us in New York. And we practiced endless hours in New York to get ready for shows. Some of his choreography is still in our program, but Renee has also added to it with her skills as a choreographer, and to new songs, she's added other choreography. So we still do choreography, but not as strenuously as we did when we were younger women.
Oh, but we move. We move.
Oh yeah, we move.
And we move.
Girl, you cut a rug? You cut that rug?
Yes.
Oh, we cut the rug.
Richard,
we know what to do.
Choreographer. Richard did choreography for the Village People, and you know how they do that sign? It's fun to say it, the YMCA, and the hand thing that they do to spell it out.
Yes.
Richard created that, so I just want everybody to know that's Richard.
Let's get that clear. Richard Moten created the YMCA dance that the Village People have been
Yes.
doing since 1978.
Yes.
Here's something.
Still
Yeah,
around.
He's still around. He's still going strong. He's still going. Another breakthrough tonight. Richard Moten, where is this man? YMCA. In fact, it was horrible watching Trump do it. I was sick over it. I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. Take him off, Freddie.
Yeah, do something else.
Richard Moten, the YMCA. Yes, please. They say the same thing. Cassandra, do something else. Correct. Oh, so last, most likely, because I think we covered a hell of a lot. But here's the most important. I know you guys were gigging, and now gigging has stopped with COVID. What's the plan? What are we doing till we can all get back? What's the dream?
We want to do new music. Cassandra, you were about to say something.
Cassandra?
Okay, yeah, we were presented with some new music, house music, and we were like a little bit thrown off because it was like house music. What are we going to do with house music? But after listening very carefully over and over to the track, Renee and myself came up with some lyrics that fit a track, and we have laid down something that we like, that we're proud of, and we're looking to go before the year is out, which will be in a month and a half or so. We're looking forward to getting into the studio and completing the track and putting it out there. And
Who's the producer?
Actually, it could be. And when I say could be, his name is Rocky Jones.
Oh, from
International.
Chicago, DJ International. I know Rocky. Know him very well.
He's the one that sent us the music.
I wonder if Rocky's watching this right now. I bet she's right. Rocky, scream out from Chicago, man.
Hey. Yeah, so.
Well, let me tell you something. Let me school you girls in something.
Mm-hmm.
The last couple of years, a lot of us have been doing, our house producers have been doing disco records. Because there's been this thing in England that happened called Glitterbox, and a whole lot of nights that jumped off this thing called Glitterbox, and it started to play music from the 70s, and they were bringing in the original DJs and some of the Europeans in English and some of the house guys who play, hybrid, blah, blah, blah. Make a long story short, a whole revolution of this 18 to 25-year-old kids was singing Chic and all the big hit records. And it was just a no-brainer to start producing disco again. Yeah. So even myself, I had a record with Shirley Lights Fire, and I've been doing other records like that too. So I'm not surprised to hear you ladies touching, because the thing about disco is you got to really know how to sing. That's the trick with this. You can't be one of these little like, wah, 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 wah. You got to be full voice, and you got to be able to drop that jaw. And that's part of, we always joke about a little grease on the side, drop your jaw, and like really sing from, the girth, like a power, like Lolita Holloway was saying, or like how you ladies sing with, the real gust in the voice. So I'm not surprised if you're asked to do disco, believe me. Because I've been doing it, and I've been working with different people on it. It's just a different way of producing, because you're doing more orchestration, but it's nothing wrong with it. But I'm glad to hear you recording. And when you do record, and DJ Rocky Jones, all right, that's a name that's synonymous with one of the first house record labels. Believe it or not, he's one of the first and the innovators of it. So I know him really a long time, but I got to give you a lot of credit. And you know what? All of you have wore the test of time, and you got more mileage ahead of you that you need to get through.
One would hope. We can still sing. That's the good part about it. We all can sing.
Is the body holding up? That's all that matters. You got to keep the body.
Yeah, that too. We're good.
That's the most important part. Is you got the body, the spirit, and the mind. You can do this, and you'll do it till the end, till you can't do it no more.
Exactly.
Props to all of you ladies, and a lot of the fans came on today, and they're like ossified. I think the biggest part to me being on the biggest part was, of course, the story behind the scenes, but the John Lennon thing broke us like, wow. That's unique. Did you see that movie of him with that album, of him making the album? You may be in there. You need to see this. They got video from the recording sessions.
We might be. I'd love to see it.
It's on Netflix. John Lennon, the Yoko John story. It's the whole White Album, that last album. It's there. Check it out.
Okay.
So anyone else? I don't think we have any more questions. I think we just need to stay safe. We got a new president coming through, and Lord help us. Oh, will you take the vaccinations? I've been asked.
I will. This is Cassandra.
Peanut Gallery. I hear the Peanut Gallery from the first album, Peanut. They're like, I don't know.
I don't take the flu vaccine because I took it once and got the flu. So I'm not really into taking vaccines.
Okay.
Unless I have to. If I'm made to, I will.
The jury is still out. I'm going to say, you know how they say, Mikey will try. Mikey tries anything. So
Let me clarify. Let me ask the question again.
All right.
Now, and because this has been asked about me too, because I got a DJ around the world as well.
Right.
So to get on a flight, it's going to get to a point where you got to go like this and show this immunity. Hi, I got my shot. Meaning you have to go get it to go fly. Now, what are you going to do? What are you going to do, ladies? Come on now.
I already gave my answer.
I know your answer is. I'm talking the other two. You're in it to win it. I hear you.
If that be the case, I would do it.
I would consider it the same thing as if I had to take the malaria.
Okay. And on that note, thank you, ladies. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.
I don't know if it's going to be that happy because we're under a very strict family rule this year. 10 and under. It's sad.
Yeah.
and
It'll get better.
Christmas and Kwanzaa and all, whatever, Passover, whatever everybody celebrates, that's going to be another thing. You can't have anything either, and it's going to be a dark winter, but we shall overcome.
Hello.
We shall overcome. And the one thing I wanted to tell you is that other than just looking at new music, we have a song called Quiet Village that when it was recorded, it didn't have verses. We're hoping in the future to go back in to put the verses in that we've written.
That Renee wrote.
Yeah, Renee wrote that.
The Renee wrote.
Right. Well, but it's going to have.
Excuse me. We work in French. Oui. O-U-I. Oui.
Renee wrote those.
No, I know. Renee wrote the lyric. Okay, so she wanted to record.
What it was, during that time, the music, like you said, it was dance music, so there was a lot of music. And now, as heritage artists, we can't move the whole entire time that the music, is going. So, some lyrics came to me. I don't know. Somehow they came, and I brought.
I would love to touch that record. See, that was something I would touch. I would do Quiet Village and make it like the original record from '77. I would make it sound exactly, but just beefed up for now, but have that orchestration because that was two parts.
The original had some lyrics in it, but they were mostly like a chorus kind of a thing.
Right.
They wrote actual verses for the song that also
Italy.
Other lyrics.
I don't know of anything. It might the Italy footage, which is not the best footage, but it does. I think Quiet Village might be on there where the lyrics are being sung. You could see it there, but that would be something that I think we might try and do.
Okay,
because it's like you said, it's a really nice song. I love it.
Beautiful song.
I love that.
Very salsa. You know what about that song is? It's got that salsa orchestra type. He was going at that salsa. As that thing was blowing up, I knew, you could tell what they were looking at. They knew salsa orchestra was blowing up. They were trying to grab that Philly sound.
Right.
And implement it, you ladies. You could tell.
So the music, when it goes, there are lyrics there now.
Right, because you would think that would be something you hear Vince Montana would have done.
Exactly.
Right? Am I wrong? Is that something like Vince would have done, right?
Very much has that flavor of Vince Montana. And, before we go, I just want to give a shout out to Troy Daniel and Wardell Piper.
Troy Daniels, Wardell Piper, yes.
To set this up for us.
Well, funny enough, Wardell and Troy came to me to remix Wardell's single before COVID. That's been put on pause. And then we got into the conversation. I was starting True House Stories. Then the thing was, I said, who else you look after in Philly? And he says, I look after the ladies. I'm like, which ladies? I'm thinking Sweethearts of Sigma. He says, no, the Ritchie Family. I went, what? And I said, they're around? Just like that. He says, yeah. I went, are they around? Meaning, are they around? Can we get? He said, let me call them. Just like that. Let me call them. And he called me 10 minutes later. He said, the ladies would love to do it. And I'm like, no, so I must have to thank Troy because he's the one that bridged me to you.
Yes.
Good on him. And this is worth the interview.
And you know what else, ladies, we didn't mention? We didn't mention the show we did, the last performance. Our very last performance was with Michael
Entertainment.
You know him.
Michael, Mr. Excitement. What's his last name?
Michael Jacobs, Mr. Excitement.
Michael Jacobs.
Excitement. There we go. Michael Jacobs. He had a show was it in the Bronx? What was it?
It was.
He brought it to the Bronx?
Brooklyn?
And oh my God, it was a lot of people on that show. We had help me out, ladies. Who was on there?
DC Tennyson, Tavares.
Was D-Train on that show?
No, D-Train wasn't.
Okay.
On one of them.
Sharon Brown,
Specialized in Love. He's another great singer.
Oh man, it was a bunch of
a lot of people.
It was a lot of people.
And very importantly, you ladies.
Yeah, we were there, and it was a really, really good show. And Michael really was a wonderful guy. Took good care of us. And that is, if we were to have a lasting memory, that's a wonderful lasting memory to have because that was a heck of a show.
Now, can I say this to you, ladies? I can see myself holding that 20th Century Fox, Brazil 45. And if somebody would have told me, and this is 1975, 76, whatever that was, around 75, if somebody would have said to me, I'd be sitting with you ladies now, I would never have believed it. I swear to God. In a good way. Like, and I always say this, you never know what you're going to do in your life. You never know what dream is going to come true. And it's unbelievable. Believe me, a lot of my friends right now are sitting going, holy smoke, he's got them. And they're here. They're for real. These are the real girls, not the imposter group. This is the real group. All right. Let's get it right. They mentioned who the original people were, and they said, no, we took it from this point and we made the legacy.
Moment of truth. That's it. Moment of truth. I'm sorry. That was the other group.
Moment of truth. Helplessly. I want to do if it ever be, baby. Jimmy Bohorn. Spank.
It was a really great lineup.
Jimmy Bohorn.
Yeah, Jimmy Bohorn.
That's another record. Let me tell you that you play and the crowd goes crazy when they hear Spank.
Yeah, wait, Fonda Ray.
Over like a fat rat, Fonda Ray.
Yes, Franz Jolie.
There we go.
Franz to me.
Franz Jolie was on there.
Heart to Break Your Heart. There we go. They're all writing hearts to you. Yes, Heart to Break, Canadian artist. Yes, very good.
Michael's on here. I just saw Michael. Hey, Michael.
There you
Michael,
go.
Excitement, Michael.
Yes, he's on. Hey.
But just so you know, this is documented. This will be on YouTube. This will be podcasted, and this video will be up. You could show people this for years to come and make sure they realize this is real. This is the true story, the true house story.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.